Welcome. I'm Sarah Tucker, if you don't know me yet. Most of you do. And this is our new series, IT in the AM, that we are working to plan educational content to share with our prospects and clients to help you all better understand our capabilities, but also give you an opportunity to network with your peers and hear from other people that are working with us. We always love doing events, and the pandemic certainly paused those for quite a while. But we're excited to revamp those and excited to have some video coverage of this one so we can make some marketing material. So, welcome. I am Sarah Tucker, Regional Sales Director. I've been with IP Pathways for about 7.5 years. I really lead the strategy on our Nebraska area. And then Jamion Aden will also be talking today, giving you a demo and diving into the technical stuff. Together, we have about 25 years of experience helping companies make better choices around technology. Really, our differentiator at IP Pathways is our people. We invest in our engineers to ensure that they are truly certified to execute the solutions that we provide. And we also work really hard to build account teams that are consultants. We want to understand your business, and we want to be that partner that helps you navigate and reach the goals that you are measured on individually as a contributor at your organization. So we want to talk about where we've been. This is incredibly exciting that we've been able to really build finally a picture of what's happened with IP Pathways. Most of you know us as a traditional VAR, right? Meaning you can come to us and say, we need switches and storage. Can we buy that from you, and can you come install it? We are certainly still that. That is how we were founded in 2007. It's a great story. Our president and owner was an engineer at Wells Fargo, actually, where he was purchasing and procuring hardware. And he founded IP Pathways because he did not like that experience. He wanted, again, that more consultant-led experience and really understanding pros and cons of technology, not just having a sales rep come in and be repping a logo and be pushing that. So that's really how and why we were invented, if you will. And our motto was then what it still is today, and I think those of you that are clients have been blessed to experience this, and that is we do whatever it takes for the customer. We want to be the partner that you call and can trust if there's issues or problems, which there often are in technology. We're going to be the ones that show up and continue to help you navigate that until you are elated. That is how we've built our brand, and that is how we will continue to operate. But we have significantly evolved beyond and on top of that. In 2014, we purchased a data center in the suburbs of Des Moines. It was actually an old Sprint Nextel facility, and it's right there on the corridor of I-80 and I-35, which means we have all of the internet at the data center. In fact, we've got over 50 carriers now within that location, and Jamion's going to dive into that, but that gives our customers a huge competitive advantage with the ability to get really cost competitive internet. We've also developed several products. Really, that has become now our focus. IP Pathways is a VAR, and we're a data center company, but now we are also a manufacturer of actual products that we are bringing to the market. Why, you might ask? And the reason is we're listening to our clients. We're starting to really dive in more and understand how can we better position ourselves as IP Pathways to ensure that we're helping our customers in this new and wild age that we're walking through. So we're thinking about things like, how can we ease the cloud migration? How can we help our clients better understand a true tested DR solution? How can we make sure our clients have a true connectivity solution, even if they have geographically disparate locations? How can we help them bring all of those together and provide a more secure way to access their data? These are the research and development questions that we're having, not just what is the new shiny logo that's coming to the market. And that's really what sets us apart. So our managed WAN and DR as a service solutions have absolutely taken off. We have some incredible case studies. If you've not gotten the opportunity to hear about those solutions and the benefits that they're bringing to the market, definitely let us know. We want to walk you through it. In 2020, this is the game changer for us. We then developed a channel program. So our adaptive cloud platform, which competes head-to-head with the hyperscalers like AWS and Google, is a self-provisioning virtual portal that you can spin up and spin down machines. And Jamion will give you an in-depth demo of that. But now what's happened is we are selling that as a white label solution to smaller managed service providers across the US. Last I heard, we have over 120 managed service partners that are then selling that solution to their clients. So that's been an incredible invention for us, and it's really changing the game. What's coming next? Lots and lots of things. All the things I like to say, but we are investing in another data center soon. So we will have 3 locations. We have some companies that have geographic requirements where they need to be a certain amount of miles away from headquarters. So we want to make sure that we continue throughout the Midwest to invest in that space. And then we're going to continue to innovate on our adaptive cloud platform. Jamion will show you lots of cool features on that, but we're not finished with that yet either. So let's talk a little cloud. We joke that this is a filler, right? But there's really been an exceptional amount of growth within the cloud. And luckily for all of us, we've continued to innovate in how we can actually secure your data going to the cloud. And we know our competitors are doing the same. It's also become more cost effective. As we continue to build those economies of scale, our customers are able to leverage their capital investments as well as ours to build a true hybrid cloud strategy that makes sense. So we'll walk through that for you as well. So why cloud and why now? There's 4 really main reasons that cloud adoption has exceptionally exploded just in the past 2 years. Number 1, who's tried to buy a switch or an AP in the last 18 months? We are seeing lead times of over 350 days on some of that equipment. And no matter the sob story, we cannot fix that. We've had lots, including hospitals that were planning to open facilities and had to pause them because there were no wireless access points to be found. It's an exceptional challenge. So thinking about planning new buildings and new spaces has now become what could have been a 6-month strategy before the pandemic. Now, honestly, is a 2-year think ahead to ensure that you're able to order the equipment that you need and for it to actually be here. Next is the Great Resignation. We are hearing from clients daily that they are losing their most talented IT workers because they're getting offered $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more to work for a company on the coast, but they can do it from their living room. And that's very much impacted local in the Midwest, right? Because it's kind of changed the ballgame for us. So we know that architecting cloud solutions for other cloud providers like Amazon or Google, we get the call every day, can you find me a cloud architect that's worked in Azure? No, we can't. We now are calling those purple unicorns. There's just not very many of them, and they are being paid a lot of money to move right after they land at a place. So what we decided to do was include the architecture and migration with our solution. So if you come to IP Pathways to start talking cloud, you receive those services without having to go and hunt for them. A customer approach, we like to say we're not delivering the same solution to one client today and the same client tomorrow. Our objective is to understand your business. How can we help you achieve your goals? And that is the solution that we're going to build for you. Finally, a strategic approach. We see this as exceptionally important. Companies had to quickly react and get everybody at home. Do they have internet? Do they have a laptop? Can they log in? Do they have a VPN? Do they even have the agent installed, right? We had to do that very, very quickly, and we all had no choice. What we're seeing is that the geographic disparity of our workers is going to continue to expand. It's likely not, for most companies, going to shrink back in. So we want to help you come up with a real long-term strategy to plan for how can I keep my workers and my data safe even if my workers are in other states. So our Adaptive Cloud ecosystem is massive at this point. We definitely have the portal, which we talked about, which you're going to get to see a demo of here shortly. But we have also developed a whole host of other solutions, including security solutions like DNS protection. Our solution actually works with artificial intelligence and helps predict what we need to be securing from that DNS side. We also have colocation, where that comes into play. So companies have been telling me, Sarah, I'm not ready for the cloud because I just bought a new SAN 6 months ago. It was $300,000. I don't want to lose that investment. So IP Pathways decided to offer a multiple hybrid option. So we can say, great, we will bring your SAN into our data center, keep it safe, keep it cooled, right? Have all of the features that you need with that enterprise side. But then we can bring the SAN in and then connect you to our compute and network as a shared service. So it's no longer let's go all into the cloud. You can say, okay, this piece is ready, these pieces aren't, and we can really build the solution that actually makes sense for your business and where you're at today. Finally, from me, we've developed a full managed services, I call it now a circle, around all the things that we do. What we've really determined is if we represent a logo, a manufacturer, or a product, we are only going to do that when we are certified to architect, implement, maintain, and support that technology. So when you come to us and say, okay, cool, I need a new SAN solution, help me explore those. We're going to come to you with all of that knowledge of how to best architect it. But if you buy it from us, you can also choose to have us manage it. So we are really that full end-to-end, and we're not going to bring you solutions that we haven't tested and researched ourselves. So let's take a look at the full ecosystem of IP Pathways Cloud. Welcome, Jamion.
Hi, guys. I'll talk a little bit about how our DCs work together. So right now we do have 2 data centers. We've got our data center here in Omaha, and then we also have one in Des Moines. Between those, we have the interconnection between those two. So, it doesn't matter if we have some of your services in Omaha, we've got them in that DC. If we need to transfer them over to Des Moines, it's as simple as just basically a point and click that we can push it over, especially for the cloud infrastructure portion. But when you start thinking about these data centers that we have, you have to look at the carriers that we have that are encompassing around those, and it's a little bit what Sarah was talking about as well, is when you start looking at those carriers, you have to see who's actually using what in the area. So, who's using Cox, who's using Windstream, Unite, those kind of things. When you look at those kind of connections, we have to have the same, kind of interconnection within our data center, and we do. We have almost, every carrier that you can get within the area. And just the location of our data centers make it so we can give those 5 millisecond sub latencies right into our data center. When you start talking cloud infrastructure, that's one of the biggest things is, is it going to be fast enough? Are we going to see, these lags in what we're trying to do? You're not going to have those issues when you have our data centers just because of the geolocation of them. Now we're going to get into a little bit of the meat and potatoes of our cloud infrastructure itself. We call this My Adaptive Cloud, is this portion. So this is kind of your management interface right within Adaptive Cloud. So from here, we can actually go right into the actual infrastructure portion. So when you start thinking about creating those VMs, creating the networks, those virtual private clouds that you need to connect up with each other, this is how you do that. So within this dashboard, we have instances, affinity groups, you've got your storage, you've got all the pieces that you would have on a normal, say a vSphere environment. That's all encompassed within this. So when we start creating these VMs, we're just going to go through the process here really quick. So instances is where you actually have all of your VMs. You have them listed out. From here, you can actually go in, you can view the console, you can work on that VM, you can take a snapshot, you can revert it back to an old snapshot, whatever you need to do with that, it's right here available to you. Now when we start to add new VMs, you can then choose which data center you want to have that VM housed at. Do you want it in Des Moines? Do you want it in Omaha? Do you want it in a space that we have not determined yet? Those kind of things that are coming down the road, that's what makes this so unique, is that you can do those kind of things. The other thing is the migration of these. So let's say you've got an on-prem environment right now. You have to have a way that you can migrate that up to the cloud easily. We have those kind of capabilities built in as well. So we can go from a template, and let's say we decide to use a Cronus or something like that, we can actually put that right into here. What we can actually do is we can actually spin up a bare metal server for you. Then what we can do from there is then use a Cronus or some kind of backup agent that we can back up your on-prem and then transfer it right into the cloud. So that way we try to make that as seamless as possible to make that migration happen. And the thing about that is we can help out with those as well. So when you think about Azure or AWS or something like that, that's your guys' responsibility. You guys are doing the migration. You guys are trying to figure out how to do it. If you decide to use us with our data centers, we can help out with that. We've got engineers that can help with the transferring, figuring out your network, figuring out that backbone of your cloud infrastructure. We can help out with that portion. So as you start going through here and creating a VM, you can then choose how, choose your compute, choose your RAM, you can choose your disk offerings. You can basically create up to a 10 terabyte disk if you want in there. It's completely up to you. Affinity groups, when you think about an affinity group, think of it as just your grouping of those servers. So let's say you have some that are, like for a hospital, you have your radiology affinity group, you have your lab affinity group. That's how you break those up so you can keep track of them a little bit better. And then from the networking standpoint, this is where I'll talk about a little bit more, but there's a lot within the networking that you can do. So when you start creating your networks in the cloud, you can create just, say, your guest network, but then once you do that, you can create virtual private clouds on top of that. So you can have east-west access lists that then stop any of that traffic from going between environments. But also you can create VPNs on top of that if you have remote workers that need to come into it. Or you can actually create, so you can have your co-located data center. Let's say you have your physical servers co-located in our data center. We can create a connection into our cloud infrastructure then to have that work as well. So let's go into this a little bit more so you can see. There's a couple different ways with your networking. So you have your guest networks that you can then basically just spin up a new network, a new VLAN, think of it that way. Put whatever into it you need to. The thing that is really handy is your virtual private clouds. With your virtual private clouds, you have a lot of options built into these. So you can actually create lab environments if you need to, and you can have them completely segregated from the rest of your network. You can have your static NAT translations. You can have multiple IP addresses assigned that are public IP addresses. And the nice thing about it is it's as simple as going into your public IPs and acquiring a new one. As soon as you do that, what it does is then it creates kind of that billable service on the back end that then puts that on your bill. You guys don't have to worry about doing any of that. Since everything is consumption based, it's as simple as when you configure it, then it gets put on that back end so that way you guys can see it. The other thing, these private gateways, we don't have any in this one, but a private gateway, think of that as your co-located equipment, that connection right into the cloud. So you have your cloud infrastructure that then goes into your co-located equipment as well. The other thing is your site-to-site VPNs. You can have those set up in here so that way you can have your transfers if you've got other corporate locations. You can have those built in right as well. That's kind of the meat and potatoes behind the infrastructure itself. But then there's another portion that you need to think of as well. So when you think about, say, AWS, when you spin up an environment, you put your credit card in, you spin up a VC2 environment, you start putting loads on those. CFO comes in, decides, I need to see what, say, shipping, see what this new program is costing us to run per year. There's no good way to figure that out. You just have one bill that shows everything. It has all your servers, all your workloads. You have no way of breaking that down. This is one thing that really sets cloud infrastructure apart, is the ability that you can set up sub-accounts within the cloud infrastructure itself. So you can have one main tenant, one main user, say that's your IT department, that oversees everything under your umbrella. You can then break that down into sub-accounts, and these sub-accounts can then have their own access into that environment, Let's say, for a hospital, for example, you can split these sub-accounts down into, departments. So you can have, radiology as a sub-account. And let's say someone comes in and say, we need to see what it takes to run a PACS for a year. If we need to figure that out, let's just happen to say that this is a radiology department. We can break it down per VM exactly what it's going to cost per month. So this gives you that granularity that you can then take it to your CFO and you can say exactly what it's going to cost to run this server for a year. It breaks it down by the compute power, it breaks it down by the RAM that you use. It also breaks it down by the storage that is put in there as well, and also the public IP addresses that are assigned to it. When you think about the overall picture, if your IT department is managing all that, and let's say you only have 3 public IPs for the entire thing, but you need to see what department is using more of that bandwidth, that's built in as well. So you can see from that public IP address just how much of a percentage that is actually using and what that cost is going to be for that as well. So that really breaks it down to another level that you can't get with those other cloud infrastructure pieces. This is a piece that really sets it apart, especially when you start needing to talk to your CFO, your CEO. This is where you can break down those things and really shine in front of them, is the biggest way I think of it. So we showed you the Adaptive Cloud, kind of a little bit of a demo of what it actually does. The other portion of that is kind of what we talked about before, is the managed WAN portion. So you need to figure out a good solution for that connectivity into your cloud environment. This is where we can help out as well. With managed WAN, we can actually become basically your service provider, if you think about it. So let's say we set up dual connectivity right into your building. We make sure that it's taken care of geolocation-wise. We set up one coming in from the north, we set up one coming in from the south. We're using 2 different carriers to do that, but you need to be able to just have one person that you call to make sure that that's going to be taken care of if anything happens. At the hospital that I was at before this, that was one of the big things. When your ISP would go down, it was trying to get a hold of someone to get it taken care of. And most of the time it's a 4-hour, wait until they can figure out what's going on, because they have that interconnection between every other provider along the way. They're talking with Allo, they're talking with Windstream, trying to figure out where in that fiber that it's cut, or they've got a piece of equipment down. With this, that puts it all on our shoulders, so you guys don't have to worry about it. But the thing about this is we can actually even take it a step further with our data centers. So let's say we have 4 separate facilities that you guys have. Let's say we have dedicated circuits for all those, and we push them all into our, say, Des Moines or Omaha data center. If we have those dedicated circuits that come back, we've just created that entire managed WAN infrastructure for you. You can have that sub-millisecond between those environments and into our cloud at the same time. And then we can become your internet provider out of our Des Moines data center. You can have one firewall that controls all of it. You can have one SIM that controls all of it, and it's all under one umbrella for you. You guys don't have to worry about those multiple locations with all those carriers, those kind of things. It's taken care of for you. So that's one of the big things. The other thing is the deployment. So you call and say you want a circuit for this facility. That then comes back to us and we just take care of it for you. We'll find the carriers, we work with them. We work backwards is what we do. We don't work with last mile. We work with the big carrier first. We decide which one's going to work best for that specific location. And then we have that carrier work with last mile to say, okay, we need it into this facility by this time, especially those new buildings trying to dig fiber. It gives us more pull that we can maybe help out with those, speeds of getting things up faster for you. Do you guys have any questions on that? We have kind of a flavor of both. We do have some that do the migration, and it's the same with either environment. So if you are in one of those clouds already, it's trying to figure out that migration into our cloud. And the thing that we do like to say is that we can handle those primary workloads. We really can. And the nice thing is, when you're talking to GCP or AWS when there is an outage, I mean, how long are you guys on the phone? With us, you call us, our help desk, we have engineers in our help desk, so they take it over right away and they start running. We have SLAs around all of our services. So, within, if you put a support ticket in, even if it's through email, they're usually responding within 5 minutes just to that email. Phone calls, you have someone right away that's already working on the issue for you. And more than likely, they're gonna know exactly your environment already. It makes it, an easy button for you, if you wanna think of it that way. I'm gonna turn it back over to Sarah.
Totally. No, that's a great question, Brad. Who's coming to the IP Pathways data centers? Is it a brand new logo or our existing clients starting to migrate some workloads? What we're finding is definitely a combination of both. I'll tell you this story. We have multiple clients in Des Moines specifically that have decided, you know what, I'm ready to test the cloud. I think it's time, but I'm not sure. So I want to start with one workload. That has happened very commonly, and it might even be just test dev. That AdaptiveCloud platform is consumption-based, so you sign a contract that says if you run stuff, you'll pay us for it. You'll pay us for those resources, and then if you don't run anything there for a month, you don't get a bill. So companies have been able to utilize that platform for those as needed, oh my goodness, you need this right now. We don't have that capacity type of requests that come into IT. So Dio Senior Living is a fabulous customer of ours. She's a great reference, Lisa. They are a senior management facility, and they own or operate or manage a combination of all three senior living facilities all across the Midwest from Chicago to San Antonio. They do not have an IT person on staff anymore. They are a 400-person organization that decided for them it made the most sense to outsource all of IT. Now that is very uncommon, especially for an organization of that size, but that is the choice that they made for their org. So we became their entire IT department. We have adaptive IT resources that serve there on site. So we have a systems engineer and a help desk, and then they have all of their infrastructure within our data center. So their production, their backup, you name it, we run it. And then they are able to, why it makes it so easy for them is they're then billing back those individual communities. So we were able to build a billing script that helps them see exactly and precisely what each user costs them and what each community costs them, so they can then bill back all of those facilities. They love to speak so highly of us, and it's so kind, but they really have noticed that true account management differentiator, which I hope everyone is able to experience, where we're building teams that are coming in to learn your business, not just that, but what are you, Brad, measured on? What is your success criteria? Who decides if you get a raise next year? Tell me what you're measured on, and then we're gonna be with you to help you reach those objectives. It really makes a big difference. We're not just here to sell you 2 or 3 APs and say thanks. We wanna be part of that strategic plan to help you reach and achieve those goals and get you promoted. That's what we celebrate most, is when our clients get to continue to move up the chain because they've had all the resources that they need to deliver on their job. I think that's the last slide. Yeah, thank you all so much. It was a pleasure doing this. Thanks for your patience with the filming and the added little nerves and jitters. But I had a great time, and we look forward to chatting more. Thanks for coming.